Power does not begin in the courts, nor in the armies, nor in the currency that changes hands under trembling fingers. Power begins in the unseen province of the self, in the silent, unmarked territory where emotion is forged into command. The man who cannot rule his own passions will never rule the passions of others. Rage is a spark, fear a flood, desire a trap. Each unchecked impulse is a crack in the fortress of authority, and through those cracks flow betrayal, subversion, and ruin. To master others, you must first master the only realm you fully possess, your own temperament. Leadership is not a matter of love or hate. These are luxuries for the ruled, not the ruler. The ruler must stand apart from affection, as a general stands apart from the smoke of battle, watching with unclouded eyes as the field burns. Mercy may be necessary, but it must never be sentimental. Punishment may be required, but it must never be born of rage. The hand that delivers justice must feel nothing except the cold weight of necessity. In the theater of power, to feel too much is to act too little. Fear is a more faithful servant than love. Love is a currency that devalues with distance, with hardship, with whispers in the dark. But fear endures. Fear sharpens the mind and binds loyalty where affection falters. A ruler who seeks to be loved will be manipulated by flatterers and betrayed by ingrates. A ruler who is feared within measure holds the hearts of men by the strongest of all chains, the instinct to survive. But fear must be calibrated like a weapon. Too little, and it is contempt. Too much, and it is rebellion. A wise leader maintains the aura of danger without indulging in cruelty for its own sake. The predator that kills indiscriminately is soon hunted by the pack. The predator that kills selectively inspires dread and obedience. Thus, to control others, you must balance menace with restraint, authority with calculation. Ambition is both a blessing and a curse. It compels men to rise, but it also consumes them. Those who ascend without mastering their ambition are devoured by it. They clutch at power like drowning men clutch at reeds, and in their desperation, they expose their weakness. A ruler's ambition must be concealed beneath an exterior of calm inevitability. Never let your hunger be seen. Let others believe you act not from desire, but from destiny. Deception is not merely a tool, it is the air in which power breathes. The world is not ruled by what is true, but by what is believed. Appearances are weapons sharper than any blade. You must become an actor upon the stage of politics, wearing the mask that the moment requires. Let them see the face they wish to follow, while concealing the mind they would fear to oppose. Truth is too blunt an instrument for power. Illusion cuts deeper. The loyal man is rare, the useful man is plentiful. Never confuse loyalty with utility. Men will swear allegiance while sharpening daggers behind your back. The wise ruler trusts no one entirely, but uses each according to their nature. It is not treachery that destroys rulers. It is their failure to anticipate it. Trust is given in pieces, never in whole, and always with a contingency in place. Even friendship in politics is a transaction. The naive believe bonds are born of shared ideals. The realist knows they are forged by shared interests and broken as soon as those interests diverge. If you would remain sovereign, you must be willing to discard allies as readily as you acquire them. Sentimentality has no place in a game where the stakes are dominion and survival. Control is an illusion, but it is a necessary illusion. The world is chaos clothed in laws, appetites bound in rituals. The ruler's task is to sustain the illusion long enough to shape the chaos into order, knowing all the while that order is fragile, temporary, and bought at the price of constant vigilance. You do not own power. You borrow it from the forces you can momentarily bend to your will. There is no virtue in weakness. The ruled can afford to worship ideals. The ruler must serve necessity. Virtue, when it serves survival, is a weapon. When it undermines authority, it is a poison. A ruler must not ask, "Is this good?" but "Will this preserve my position?" All else is vanity dressed as morality. This is the anatomy of power, cold, unforgiving, precise. It begins with the self and radiates outward like the rings of a tightening noose. To rule is to walk a knife's edge, to calculate when to extend the hand and when to strike with the blade. And above all, it is to remember that power is not given. It is taken, held, and defended or lost forever. Power is not a possession. It is a current that must be seized and channeled, lest it turn against you. It has no moral nature, no inherent loyalty to the one who wields it. It flows to those who dare to grasp it with steady hands and the courage to use it without flinching. The man who hesitates, who wonders whether he deserves to command, is already defeated. For in the theater of power, doubt is a signal fire to your enemies, an open invitation to predators circling in the dark. The first victory is not over armies or rivals. It is over the voice within that whispers hesitation. You must understand men as they are, not as they pretend to be. Strip away the gilded words, the pledges of loyalty, the masks of piety, and you will find the same raw material: fear, greed, vanity, ambition. These are not flaws. They are the levers by which humanity is moved. The ruler who denies this is blind. The ruler who understands it begins to see. When you speak to men, speak not to their reason, but to their instincts. Tell them what they wish to hear while preparing to act as necessity demands. If they love illusions, give them illusions, but never believe in them yourself. It is better to be underestimated than overestimated. A tiger is feared, but it draws hunters. A fox walks among the traps unseen. To endure in power, you must learn to combine the fox's cunning with the lion's strength. Strength alone invites coalitions of the fearful. Cunning alone wins no decisive victories. Together, they form the architecture of survival. Reveal your strength only when it is too late for others to resist. Until then, let them see only fragments, never the whole design. The crowd is a beast with 1,000 heads, each one speaking a different desire. It craves leadership yet resents control. It demands justice but flees responsibility. A ruler must neither trust the crowd nor despise it. He must study its currents as a sailor studies the sea. Stirring the crowd is easy, steering it is harder. Calming it after a storm is hardest of all. Do not imagine you can abolish its nature. Instead, use its passions to build the foundation of your state. Flatter its hopes, satisfy its fears, and, when necessary, intimidate it into obedience. Betrayal is inevitable. You may delay it, anticipate it, even manipulate its timing, but you will never abolish it. Every man carries within him the seed of treachery, waiting for the right season to bloom. The ruler's task is not to eliminate betrayal, but to remain above it, to ensure that no single traitor can topple the edifice you have built. Divide your servants so that they cannot unite against you. Reward betrayal when it serves your purpose. Punish it when it threatens your position. Let them fear the cost of disloyalty more than they hope for the reward of rebellion. Control the flow of information, and you control perception. What men see and hear shapes what they believe. What they believe shapes how they act. Truth is rarely decisive. Perception always is. A rumor, a symbol, a carefully staged gesture, these carry more weight in politics than facts laid bare. The wise ruler does not waste time correcting every lie. Instead, he creates a stronger narrative, one that drowns falsehood in a tide of belief. Appear virtuous, even if you must act viciously. Appear calm, even as you plot decisive violence. Appear inevitable, and your enemies will collapse before you strike. Exile is a crucible. The man cast out learns who he is, stripped of the trappings of power and the chorus of flatterers. If you find yourself in exile, do not despair. Use it to study, to reflect, to sharpen your mind. In exile, you see more clearly the machinery of the state, the fickleness of allies, the weakness of rulers, and when you return, you will return not as the same man, but as something harder, colder, more dangerous. The exiled ruler who survives is the one who no longer fears loss, for he has already endured the worst. War is not the opposite of peace. It is peace's shadow. Even in quiet times, The logic of war governs politics. The ruler who forgets this invites disaster. Armies are not mere tools. They are the spine of authority. A disarmed ruler is a servant in disguise. Trust neither mercenaries nor allies to fight your wars. Mercenaries are loyal only to gold. Allies are loyal only to themselves. Your strength must be your own, and your people must be accustomed to bearing arms. Weakness is an invitation. Strength, even if untested, is a deterrent. There is a moment in every reign when fortune turns. No man commands luck forever. But the ruler who relies on fortune is no ruler at all. Fortune is a capricious woman. She favors the bold, but she abandons the reckless. The wise ruler courts fortune but builds his house upon strategy. When fortune smiles, seize the advantage. When she scorns you, retreat in order to strike again. Adaptation is the highest form of strength, for no plan survives the shifting tides of fate. Do not imagine that virtue alone will save you. The world does not reward goodness. It rewards effectiveness. A ruler who clings to virtue when vice is required will not long possess either power or virtue, but neither should you indulge in cruelty for its own sake. Every act of violence must be calculated, precise, and purposeful. Waste nothing, not lives, not resources, not opportunities. In politics, as in war, excess is weakness disguised as strength. Every man dies, but not every ruler leaves a legacy. The desire to be remembered tempts men into folly. They build monuments to themselves and neglect the living foundations of power. Legacy is not marble. It is the endurance of your state, the survival of your vision beyond your death. If you wish to be remembered, rule so that your absence leaves an emptiness too vast to be filled. But do not mistake fame for immortality. Even the greatest names are eventually dust. To lead is to accept solitude. The higher you climb, the fewer voices you can trust, and the more decisions you must make alone. Counselors may advise, generals may plan, ministers may administer, but the burden of command is yours alone. You will be loved, hated, envied, feared. None of it matters. What matters is that you endure, that you hold the reins until the moment you choose to release them, not the moment they are torn from your hands. The ruler's path is not a moral path. It is not a path of comfort, nor of peace. It is a path of necessity. To walk it requires a heart that can feel and yet remain unmoved, a mind that can dream and yet remain calculating, a will that bends but does not break. You are not a servant of ideals. You are a servant of order, and order in this world is a fragile, bloody thing. Hold your emotions as you would hold a blade, firmly, without trembling, for if you do not control them, they will control you, and the man who cannot master himself has no right to master others. The first form of power is not the army. It is not the treasury. It is not the laws written in books. The first form of power is emotional control. Without it, all else collapses. With it, you can build an empire from dust. Power is not held by the strongest hands, but by the steadiest. A single tremor of emotion, a flash of anger, a burst of fear, a pang of longing can undo what years of calculation have built. Control over others begins with control over the self. The ruler must become his own sentinel, standing guard against the invasions of impulse. A careless word can betray intent. A poorly concealed desire can reveal weakness. Even a glance, at the wrong moment, can unravel alliances. The face of a leader must be a mask so perfect that no one suspects a mask exists at all. Those who are ruled live in the world of appearances. They believe what they see and hear, rarely questioning the hand that shapes those sights and sounds. The ruler, therefore, becomes a craftsman of illusion, a conductor of perceptions. But to shape appearances outwardly, he must first maintain stillness inwardly. Emotional eruptions are signals to the perceptive. They give your adversaries maps to the hidden places of your mind. The ruler who smiles when insulted, who frowns when praised, who remains unmoved when threatened, this is the ruler. No one dares to cross, for his depths cannot be measured. The hunger for power is natural, but its expression must never appear desperate. To want something too openly is to tell the world where you can be manipulated. The man who seems content, even when he schemes, is the man who cannot be baited. Let your rivals believe you are satisfied. Let them relax their guard. Let them think they know the boundaries of your ambition. When the moment comes, you will strike from a place they imagined empty. Ambition concealed is ambition strengthened. Divide your enemies before they unite. No coalition against you is inevitable. It must be allowed to form through carelessness. Keep factions in perpetual competition, each fearing the others more than they resent you. Offer rewards that make their loyalty profitable, punishments that make disloyalty ruinous. But never let any single man grow so powerful that he can challenge you unaided. A wise ruler is like the sun, indispensable to all, yet too blinding to stare at directly. The loyalty of the people is a shifting thing, tied less to gratitude than to the conditions of their daily lives. Feed them, protect them, give them a sense of purpose, and they will call you just. Fail in these duties, and their love will sour into hatred. But do not mistake love for permanence. The crowd is mercurial, its affections bought and sold by rumor, spectacle, and fear. It is safer to be feared in such a way that fear does not breed hatred, but respect, like the fear of fire, which warms and destroys in equal measure. Anxiety is a luxury of the ruled, not the ruler. A man who commands cannot allow doubt to paralyze his will. Hesitation, once visible, spreads like rot. Every decision, whether to pardon or punish, to advance or retreat, must seem inevitable, even if made in the depths of uncertainty. Appear confident, even when you are not. The perception of certainty in a leader is often more valuable than certainty itself. Control information as you would control the arteries of a living body. Let nothing flow freely that you have not approved, and flood the channels with what serves your purpose. Secrets are currency, and the one who holds them holds leverage. The ignorant are malleable, the informed are dangerous. Feed the masses simple truths, but reserve the complex realities for yourself and a few trusted agents, and even among them, trust sparingly. Information is power, but it is also a toxin. Let too much of it seep out, and even the strongest regime will corrode from within. Do not imagine that justice is a matter of fairness. Justice, in politics, is whatever preserves order and reinforces your authority. Sometimes it demands leniency to appear merciful, sometimes it demands severity to deter rebellion, but it is always instrumental, never sentimental. When you pardon, make it seem like a gift. When you punish, make it seem like a law of nature. In both cases, the people must see not your personal preference, but the weight of inevitability. Friendship among rulers is a fiction. Behind every alliance lies calculation, behind every treaty, a contingency plan. Treat no ally as indispensable, and let no ally treat you that way either. When their usefulness ends, discard them with the same lack of ceremony they will show you when your hour of weakness arrives. Relations between states are not governed by loyalty, but by the shifting tides of advantage. Recognize this, and you will never be surprised by betrayal. The ruler's solitude is his armor. To confide too easily is to give weapons to others. Let no one believe they fully know your mind. Share fragments, but never the whole. Counselors may advise, but they too are governed by self-interest. Use them as tools, but keep the final decisions as your own burden. The man who leans too heavily on advisors becomes their puppet, and in the game of power, the puppet is discarded when the show ends. War is not a choice, it is an inevitability. Even when there is no fighting, you are at war with complacency, with discontent, with the ambitions of others. A ruler who desires peace must prepare for war. Show readiness not as a threat, but as an unspoken reality, that your strength is a fact, not a posture. Let potential enemies calculate their chances and find the cost too high to bear. Peace secured through strength is the only peace that lasts. Fate is a river, wild and unpredictable, but it is not beyond influence. The man who drifts with its current is at its mercy. The man who swims against it exhausts himself. The wise ruler steers between these extremes, guiding fortune when possible, yielding when necessary. Fortune favors boldness, but boldness without judgment is a plunge into ruin. Measure risk with cold clarity, and when action is required, act swiftly and without hesitation. Do not be seduced by your own power. It is not a crown that rests lightly on the head. It is a blade suspended by a single thread. Each day you reign is a day you defend your position against forces seen and unseen. To grow careless is to invite the thread to snap. Power is maintained not by possession, but by constant vigilance, constant adaptation, constant readiness to do what others cannot. The man who cannot govern himself cannot govern a state. The man who cannot master his emotions cannot master the emotions of a crowd. The man who cannot act with decisiveness cannot compel others to act. Emotional control is not merely a virtue. It is the root from which all other powers grow. Hold your face as a mask and your mind as a fortress. Let no rival see your true thoughts. Let no ally glimpse your full strength. Command yourself as you would command an army, with discipline, clarity, and ruthless efficiency. For in the end, the battle is not for power alone. It is for the right to wield it without being destroyed by its weight. And remember, power does not forgive weakness, nor does it reward innocence. It rewards only those who understand its nature and dare to embrace it fully. The first form of power is emotional control. Without it, you are already conquered. With it, you hold the keys to every other dominion. Do not be deceived by the silence of your court or the smiles of your ministers. Beneath every bow, behind every whispered oath, there is calculation. Men serve while it suits them, and betray when the gain outweighs the risk. The ruler who assumes loyalty is eternal, is the ruler already half dethroned. Loyalty exists, but it is brittle. It must be reinforced with fear, cemented with rewards, and above all, kept under surveillance. Trust is not a gift you bestow. It is a resource you ration sparingly. Every man who comes near power dreams of holding it for himself. Your generals think they could command without you. Your advisors imagine they could rule better than you. Even your allies, should fortune shift, will see the throne as a prize to be won. To survive, you must cultivate a discipline of suspicion, not to the point of paralysis, but as a constant hum in the background of your thoughts. The ruler's mind is a citadel, and every gate must be guarded. Divide those beneath you, not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. A united faction is dangerous, a divided one is pliable. Sow rivalry, reward minor betrayals, keep ambitious men close enough to watch but never so close they can conspire. Let them compete for your favor rather than collaborate against you. Power is not hoarded, it is balanced, allocated carefully, so no single subject grows strong enough to challenge your will. In politics, perception shapes reality. A ruler must not only govern but appear to govern effortlessly. Struggle, hesitation, visible conflict, these are invitations for challengers to rise. Even when your rule is precarious, act as though it is unassailable. Let no rumor find you unprepared. Let no insult draw a visible reaction. Strength is often nothing more than the appearance of strength, and weakness, once revealed, spreads faster than plague. Men admire boldness in a leader, but boldness must never drift into recklessness. Strike only when victory is certain or when delay would guarantee defeat. Half measures breed contempt. Excess breeds rebellion. The art lies in calculation, to act neither too soon nor too late, to punish neither too lightly nor too heavily. Each decision must land with the weight of inevitability. Let them believe you had no choice but to act, and they will accept even the harshest measures. The emotions of the people are like a sea, restless, shifting, at times tranquil and at times violent. You cannot control the tides, but you can study them, predict them, use them to your advantage. Feed their hopes when you need their labor. Feed their fears when you need their submission. Do not seek their love, for it fades with hardship. Seek instead their respect, tinged with caution. The crowd may murmur against you in secret, but if it fears your strength, it will hesitate to rise. Mercy is a tool, not a principle. Use it sparingly, and only when it strengthens your hold. A single act of mercy, well timed, can bind hearts to you. Too much mercy invites transgression. Severity, too, is a weapon to wield with care. Excessive cruelty breeds resentment that festers into rebellion. The ruler who strikes precisely, punishing only when necessary and rewarding only when useful, carves respect into the bones of his people. Reputation is a fortress stronger than stone. Build it carefully, guard it fiercely, and let no man tear it down unchallenged. What others believe about you shapes how they act toward you. Are you seen as generous or grasping, as decisive or wavering, as inevitable or vulnerable? These perceptions determine the loyalties of your allies and the boldness of your enemies. Guard your name as you guard your throne, for the two are inseparable. Allies will betray you when it serves them. The wise ruler expects it, plans for it, and uses betrayal as an opportunity rather than a disaster. When they turn, expose them swiftly and punish them publicly, so others understand the cost. But do not let vengeance blind you. Sometimes betrayal can be turned to advantage if you are willing to act with cold pragmatism rather than wounded pride. Sentiment is a luxury, necessity, a law. Power rarely falls to those who deserve it. It falls to those willing to endure its weight. To rule is to stand alone in a crowd, to bear responsibility for decisions that others can only criticize from the safety of obscurity. The ruler's heart must be hardened not against suffering, but against the illusions that make men weak: compassion without calculation, love without boundaries, trust without vigilance. Remember this: you are never secure. Even in victory, you are vulnerable. The man who believes he has no enemies is already surrounded. The throne is not a seat of rest. It is a perch above a battlefield. Each day you reign, you must defend your position as though it were your first and last. The moment you grow complacent, the moment you imagine yourself unassailable, your fall begins. Fortune is a river wild, shifting, and often destructive. You cannot command it, but you can build embankments to channel its force. When fortune flows in your favor, move swiftly, decisively, to exploit it. When it turns, retreat strategically and wait for the tide to shift again. Those who cling rigidly to one plan are swept away. Those who adapt endure. To rule is not to live. It is to struggle ceaselessly against entropy, against rivals, against the fickleness of human hearts. It is not a path for those who seek comfort or moral purity. It is a path for those willing to sacrifice ease for influence, ideals for stability, and even peace of mind for the permanence of their power. Master yourself, and you master the world. Fail in this, and all the armies, wealth, and laws in your possession will crumble like sand in the wind. Emotional control is the first form of power, and it is the last you must surrender. For in the end, the greatest enemy of the ruler is not the assassin's blade, nor the traitor's plot. It is the ruler's own unguarded heart. And yet, even as you hold the reins tight, even as your word shapes the fates of thousands, even as your enemies fall silent or are swept from the board, there is one adversary you will never conquer: time. It advances without pity, gnawing at the foundations you have built, whispering that even the strongest walls will one day crack, even the most loyal servants will one day serve another, even the sharpest mind will one day falter. What then remains? A name carved into stone? Statues erected in your image? The stories told in courtly halls? These are fragile things. Names are rewritten, statues pulled down, stories reshaped to fit the needs of those who come after. Legacy is not immortality. It is only the echo of a voice, and even echoes fade. Do not imagine you will be remembered for what you were. You will be remembered for what you seem to be. Appearances outlive reality. Myths outlive men. If you wish to endure in memory, craft not only your rule, but your legend. But do so with this knowledge: one day, even your legend will be dust. Power was never a crown resting lightly on your brow. It was always a blade pressed to your throat, held in place by your own hand. To rule was to live in a state of permanent vigilance, to sacrifice ease, friendship, and even love to a greater purpose. Was it worth it? That is the question every ruler must carry to his grave. But know this: better to have grasped power, to have bent the world to your will for a time, than to have lived a life of quiet servitude. The ruler may not be loved, he may not be remembered, but for a brief and burning span, he is sovereign over all that he surveys. That, too, is a kind of immortality, and in your final hour, as you sit alone in the silence you have carved around yourself, as the weight of your choices settles on your shoulders like a shroud, you will understand. The first power was always over yourself. The final victory was always over fear. The man who commands himself commands all. The man who fails in this commands nothing.